Good morning, everyone. This is meteorologist Ted Keller. Here is a look at the severe thunderstorm outlooks for the next couple of days, and you're going to see a surprising clustering of these outlooks pretty much in the same area and very much in line with what you would expect now that we're in the month of June. It's all up north pretty much. So here's today's outlook for Tuesday. Slight risk shows up. We'll zoom in on area in a second. The marginal risk, which are the darker green, go all the way down the front range of the Rockies, all the way down into Texas, and little patches there in eastern parts of Texas too, and down in Florida, Georgia, and a little bit of Alabama. But we'll zoom in on this level 2 here, which is what we still refer to as a slight risk, and used to be the only level, the starting level, before the SPC started expanding how they do that. So that goes through the heart of North Dakota, about half of South Dakota, parts of the western part of the panhandle of Nebraska as well. So what are the threats? There is a tornado threat, and it does show up as a 5% risk. As you can see there, and that is pretty much in northwest South Dakota and a small chunk of South Dakota, or a small chunk of North Dakota, rather. So a 5% risk up there, which NATOcast pretty much gets on board with too, almost the exact same area as a matter of fact. And so it's all a matter of, for tornadoes, it's all a matter of having, of course, the supercell, which you have to have a good shear throughout the entire atmosphere, good upper level winds. And then in the lower levels of the atmosphere, you have to have some rotation, and especially in the very, very lowest layer. And that appears to be at least probable or possible in that area of especially western South Dakota today. There's additionally a hail risk is probably the second highest risk of the three, which wind being the third one. And you can see there's a 15% chance pretty much in the slight risk area. And the intensity of that hail is expected to be clustering around 1 to 2 inches. 1 inch, of course, is the minimum for severe hail. So we're talking about 1 to 1.5, 1.5 to 2 inches in that striped area right there, which pretty much overlays with the higher intensity. Not always, but in this case it does. If we look at Colorado State University's outlook, tornado threat, they have that shifted back into a little more restricted there in eastern Colorado, with the hail maximum reaching a little bit of a pinpoint there in western South Dakota, and the wind not a whole lot to speak of. Now, turning the page to Wednesday, you're going to see it's shifting east a little bit. So from Fargo down to Pierre, and including the other half of South Dakota now. And you can see where that lies. Some parts of Minnesota are on that slight risk, level 2 out of 5. If we look at CSU, they're not getting too excited about tornado risk, and indeed there probably isn't much of one. Of course, this is the day 2 outlook. There's always room for adjustments every morning, especially when the SPC looks at that. Hail is still primarily the threat with the severe thunderstorms, with wind not so much. And then we go on to Thursday, and you can see clear evidence here of a cool front kind of sagging into this area and a resurgence of unstable air this way. So level 2, a slight risk 2 days out, 3 days out, I should say, is significant. And now it shifts back to the west again, almost all of South Dakota, parts of Nebraska, Wyoming, and a little bit of Montana too. And for Thursday, the severe hail risk comes and shifts backwards again. I think, again, the wind risk is not mentionable, really, and the tornado risk is having problems just because the low-level wind field is just not cooperating on that. Again, micro adjustments, mesoscale adjustments are always possible the day of or during the day. And so it's pretty quiet, really, but I do expect, now this is a summary of the next 7 days of supercell composite. It just adds up each pixel and assigns a percentage chance of a supercell. And so usually this lines up pretty well with what the SPC is saying. In this case, that is definitely true. And especially emphasis there into southern parts of, Saskatchewan in Canada. So that's interesting. The week after that, which covers the period the 9th through the 15th, it looks like supercells are a little more probable, a little more south into Kansas and Nebraska. Looks like chasing material to me. Will I go to the Dakotas? Sure, but I have to have a pretty good reason to go up there because you're going to be staying the night. And then after that, again, pretty much in agreement with climatology, the 16th through the 22nd, we've got a pretty good maximum from Montana straight down. Possible dry line activity, possible activity along a stalled front on average in this area right here.